All right, welcome everybody. I am filling in for Hayden today, who is unfortunately not feeling well. So apologies if I fumble my way through this, but I did my best to try to throw in the updates that I was aware of. Um, the rather light agenda, but if we want to dig into a particular topic, I'm happy to do that. Um, so I guess kind of our first order of business is to go through kind of the projects and kind of give a quick status update of anything that's changed since the last meeting. Um, for those of you who are not aware, we are investing in a new version of Recore, which is based on a more scalable storage implementation behind the scenes that you can find in the Recore-tiles repository, but we're kind of branding that as Recore V2. That did hit its first milestone, and we published a blog post kind of talking about what that content actually looks like. And the team is working on standing up an instance of that in our staging infrastructure so that we can have a live system to start to iterate against from a client point of view. Pulsio, we had a minor release due to a bug fixed in one of the extensions that was put in the code signing certificates that wasn't formatted appropriately. We fixed that and released that and rolled that out into production. Recore V1 had a release that incorporates some work that we are doing to enable crypto agility, and this is kind of in the spirit of preparing ourselves for some of the post-quantum support that we know we want to do later this year. And so making sure that we have the ability to switch signing our algorithms and have folks declare what they want to use is an important part of all of this. Tanner, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't see your hand.
No, it just went up. So the Recore release actually was a breaking change for us. Specifically, there was a change that removed the support for some signing algorithms and hashes. We happen to be using a ECDSA 384 key with a SHA-256 hash, which I understand the reasoning for that deprecation, but it did mean we had to mint a new key to sign some stuff. At the end of the day, it wasn't that big of a problem, but it was a little bit of a scary thing for us to go through. It meant we almost lost access to some very important stuff, and I was about to ask us to revert the changes to regain access until we found a way through. But I'm just wondering, it kind of put on our brains, is there a place that we can be monitoring changes like this that could disrupt our ability to release?
Yeah, so I guess first off, sorry, I think we had put out a couple of calls in some of the Slack channels, if my memory is right, and I could be wrong on this, but I know there was some discussion around, did we think anyone was using it? If that didn't reach you, that's certainly not an intended omission.
Sure. Yeah, totally.
I think the two best places are the Recore subchannel within our Slack instance, as well as the client's instance. I would say those are the areas where we tend to have the most conversation around kind of the interaction models and some of the changes that we've been discussing around PQ. So those are the two best places, I would say. I think certainly could take the feedback for those sorts of changes to get announced a bit earlier with a, maybe a more explicit comms plan is something we should be doing a little bit better at for sure. But
okay, cool, sweet. The other question I had was in relation to Recore V2. Is that going to have implications on the public-facing API that the Sigstore clients will have to be updated to accommodate?
Yes, it will. We are starting to work right now in the kind of major language-specific libraries, so things Sigstore Go, Sigstore Python, Sigstore Java, JavaScript, etc. So we're starting with those and building out a set of conformance tests that basically ensure that we have consistent behavior across all the language SDKs. So we're in the middle of starting to flush those out and make sure that we've got good conformance tests to kind of gain confidence in the various implementations for. They will require client changes, at the end of the day.
Okay.
It's similar in structure on the right path of putting things into the log. Reading from the log is what is a bit different. And that has to do, again, with that storage backend that we're switching to. It's not to go too much into the weeds, but it uses a hierarchical object storage backend that still implements the Merkle tree, but does it in a way that doesn't use a transactional database to serve all of the content from the log. So it allows us to be much more scalable, given that once we write stuff in the log, we're never changing it. We don't really need the protections of a database at that point.
Sure.
And this is the same infrastructure that's used, at least architecturally, underneath the Golang checksum database. And it's also a transparency log based on Merkle trees. And this is something that's been run in that system for going on 5 or 6 years now. So it's very well battle tested, proven to work at scale, and we're simply kind of porting Rekor to use that same kind of architecture on the back end. But that does require some client changes in order to read from it.
Okay. And then is there a deprecation plan for Rekor V1 somewhere?
We have not formally published one. I think the intent would be once we see that V2 is up and stable and we have public instances, we would set a deprecation policy on that. I can't, I know I'm on a recorded video here, so I could be held against me, but I think we recognize that there's a number of moving systems out there that depend on Rekor V1. We do not want to go turn it off aggressively and force changes that are not necessarily, folks are not prepared for. That being said, we do see strong momentum towards things like PQ and seeing a lot of folks that want to move in that direction. So I think, the intent is get V2 up, supported by clients, get it stable, have that switch over to be the preferred path, and then set a deprecation date for when we would turn down V1 from a write perspective. We will leave likely V1 up from a read perspective, so that folks have that historical access to go look at it. But from we'll want to shift the right traffic onto the new architecture, likely at some point towards the end of this year. But again, we'll have to figure out exactly what are the timelines, how do we stagger that? We know we don't want to do that in a breaking manner too aggressively. So it's something, we don't have an explicit date yet set for that, but something the team is going to work on based on how the kind of development path looks from the project perspective.
Okay. And last question, sorry, I've taken up a bunch of time. You had said that we're going to be updating the clients before we formally deprecate Rekor V1 and have this plan to migrate to Rekor V2. There's one client that I'm never quite sure what its fate is, and it's Sigstore RS. I know it's experimental, but is that something that you include in the, we will update these clients to support V2 before?
Yeah, I think Sigstore RS is a case where we would love to see more engagement from the community. I think there's a number of features that have nothing to do with Rekor V1 to V2 transition that need to get fixed in order for it to be a fully conformant client, and B, also take advantage of some of the infrastructure within Tough. I think it's a working implementation, but not a complete implementation is maybe the best way that I would put it at this point.
Sure.
Also, the other thing is that we don't have a ton of crustaceans within the community that are willing to jump in and help. So that has also been a limiting factor. But the long-term intent would be, yes, we would like all of our clients to meet the same conformance bar. And if it's in the repo, we want to clearly signal that, it's reached a maturity, it's no longer in an experimental state. And once that's there, we want to continue to keep that at that state going forward. But at the moment, Rust is, there's still people contributing to it, but I wouldn't say it's the level of momentum that we see on Python or JavaScript or Go at this point.
Okay. So does that mean we need more Rust people to make that happen, or would we say that the Sigstore RS client is potentially at risk from not supporting Rekor V2 without community changes?
I think it's too early to call it at risk. I mean, certainly more, like any open source project, more hands are always welcome, right?
Sure.
But I think at this point, when the technical steering committee has talked about it, we certainly do see a difference in terms of the maturity of the code base between the Rust client and all the other clients that we have right now. And so that is why it's currently still flagged as experimental. And we have seen people take dependencies on it and get burned, and that's not great. And so we're trying to leave that kind of project tiering as a strong signal to folks of, yes, this exists. It's in the state that it is. It's not in the same state as where all the other clients are. But at the end of the day, the code is open. People are going to take it and they're going to do what they want with it. And we want to just make sure that we're clear and transparent around the state of it and what it does support. So, but again, from a trajectory point of view, yes, more hands would certainly be welcome in that space.
Cool. Great. Thank you.
Sure thing. Last thing on the server side components to mention, the timestamping authority, we cut a minor release to fix a couple small bugs, but I'll skip ahead to the infrastructure side. We had deployed an instance of this in our staging environments. That all went smoothly, and it's been running just fine for a couple of weeks now. So we have rolled that out into our production environment as well. So this is kind of a new RFC 3161 compatible endpoint that Sigstore looks to take advantage of when also the Recore v2 changes are out. So this was a prerequisite for that client work that we're going to do. We did have 2 releases of clients, Sigstore Python and Sigstore JS. The Python one is really the one of note, where there was some reliability fixes in terms of the actual background retries, where it was pulling for tough roots, as well as embedding some other metadata in it. So that seems to have rolled out and has provided some improvements for some users that were reporting some flakiness with network traffic. That seems to have stabilized that. Also on the public good infrastructure side, we made some improvements to our live prober infrastructure to both simplify that as well as to get more responsiveness out of the alerting system. We're talking about dropping 30 to 45 seconds from that overall runtime process to make that much more responsive. So we have multiple levels of probers, both within the cluster, within the cloud provider, as well as kind of emulating a random user on the internet to try to kind of test multiple levels of where things could go wrong. So that has rolled out and been stable for the last several weeks, but that's giving us more confidence that we're getting a more responsive dynamic from our operations. All right. I think that was the only that was the list of stuff that I had put in here. I am happy to take other questions or any other topics that folks have. Otherwise, those are the updates that I had prepared for today.
I wanted to bring. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. I can wait.
Yeah. Okay. I want to bring one thing like the Podman integration. So eventually I'd like to be able to do Podman pull or Podman run of an image, and has that thing to verify the Sigstore signature, cosigned signature, using all the TSA and all this stuff. So do you know if like anyone kind of interface into the Red Hat or the Podman community, or is involved in this, or would be interested, or do you have any kind of advice on how to go about this?
So it's a great question. I know that folks, so I'm ex Red Hat as well. So I'm trying to, like, my information may be a little dated from when I was there. I know folks on the Podman team, Dan Walsh and others, have played around and there's a varying level of support for this already embedded within the tool. I'm recalling an issue that was filed not too long ago, maybe 2 months ago, where someone was pulling one of our kind of containerized or container images for cosign itself, and had noticed that the signature verification within the Podman structure was having some issue. So I know that there's some native capability within Podman to do this today. How resilient it is and how forward kind of, compatible will it be with things like Recore v2 coming up and things that we'll need to adjust? I think that's certainly a thread that we would like to push on. Lance Ball is the eng manager that I think is representing the trusted signing team at Red Hat. So Lance might be a good person to start with and ask that question to. He's in the Slack channel, so if you just look up Lance, Lance, Ball, Ball, he'd probably be a good person to start with.
And the Slack channel would be this private infrastructure, right? Or
clients, or I think clients might be a good one as well.
Private Sigstore users.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, maybe I'll start a thread because when I was looking at this, I think it supports kind of the standard way. So using the public record and the public TSA, maybe TSA, but like if you need private TSA, then it doesn't support it.
Right.
I'm not sure if it even supports TSA. I think it supports record.
Probably not at this point.
Record,
I will
sure. I
be
think
surprised if it
these are the kind.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but let's start a thread and then we.
Okay. Sounds good. All right, Stacy, back over to you.
Oh yeah, no, I just wanted to stop in and say hi, and introduce myself. So I'm Stacy. I'm the new community manager here at OpenSSF, and just want to kind of be here for you guys and be your point of contact if you need anything. I mean, not that you don't have other points of contact with the OpenSSF already, but I'll be attending these meetings regularly. We also have, I just kind of wanted to throw out there that we're going to be sponsoring some upcoming conferences here and there from the OpenSSF side, and would love if we could get some project demos at our booths and things like that. So I think the one that's upcoming is the Open Source Summit in North America, which is I think in Denver in June. So if anyone from the community will be there and is interested in doing a Sigstore demo or any sort of demos at our OpenSSF booth, please reach out to me. I'm happy to work with you and set up a schedule there. Otherwise, yeah, I'll just be here and popping in on occasion.
Cool. Glad to have you. All right, last call for any other topics. All right, well, thanks.